Hi and welcome to my channel and my very first review. It's going to be a comparison review of a couple of popular wireless microphone solutions. First off, the DJI mic system, which is currently very hard to get hold of. So much so that I placed my order a couple of months back and I waited and I got tired of waiting, so I actually saw a bargain on this guy, the Godox MoveLink M2 kit. And I got a really good deal together with the handle adapter as well. So I purchased this one. Of course, as luck would have it, both arrived pretty much around the same time. So I thought, well, why not do a comparison test of the two? The DJI is currently very hard to get hold of. It has a list price and street price basically of $329. And if you order one now, hopefully you should be able to get it around about June, July timeframe. The MoveLink, on the other hand, is available pretty much all over the place. It has a list price of $199. Currently a street price of around $129 for this particular kit. And I actually got it bundled together with the handle adapter for even less than that. So if you keep a lookout, you might even get a bargain there also. So the question is our DJI mic system really worth twice the amount or more than twice the amount of the MoveLink system? So we're going to run a few tests and determine if it really is worth the extra money. Okay, let's open up the Godox MoveLink M2 kit and see what's inside. Okay, pretty nice packaging. Magnetic connector on here. It's a rather nice touch. Inside we have our charging case, which has the two transmitters and receiver inside. USB-C connection on the end for charging. Just keep in mind this is not a battery case, so it doesn't charge unless it's plugged in. We have a box of accessories. We have an instruction manual. And then we have two pretty large wind protectors here. Okay, let's put this off to the side and take a look at what's in here. Okay, quite a lot of stuff in here. We have first of all our two connection cables, one for your DSLR or video camera, the other one for your smartphone. We have two included lav mics. That's a really nice inclusion, particularly at this price point. We have 1, 2, 3 USB-A to USB-C cables for charging. These can be used to charge the transmitter or receiver or the box itself, so that's a nice touch as well. We have a lanyard for connecting on to the charging case for carrying it, and then we have a couple of magnets here for connecting the microphones to a t-shirt or something without having to use the included clip. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the DJI mic kit and see what's inside. Okay, so we have some accessories and paperwork in a box here. And here we have the charging case. Has a pretty good heft to it, and it comes wrapped up in this protective film, as you can see. So there's the case itself. This is a charging case, but also has its own battery, so it will charge the devices whenever they're placed inside. And also you can see when I flip the lid, everything powers up, shows me the status of all my devices, and you can see the level of charge in the case as well. Here in the middle we've got the receiver, and then left and right we have the two transmitters. And then at the back here you can see we have a couple of adapters for connecting up to a smartphone. Let's take a look in the accessories pack. So you can see we have a nice quality pouch for putting everything in. And inside this pouch we have, if I can get it out, some paperwork. We have a couple of wind protectors. We have a single USB-C charging cable, which of course plugs in directly to the charging case itself here at the back, but also the same cable or a similar USB-C cable can charge the transmitters or the receiver independently. And we have a single analog audio connection cable for a DSLR or digital camera. This is a TRS cable. This kit does not include the TRS cable for smartphones because of course we already have the adapters, as we mentioned before, in here. Let's take a closer look at the charging case, the transmitters, and the receiver. So here we have the charging case. As we said before, it charges the devices, but it does not have a battery itself. So as long as the devices are not plugged in, you see they're in standby mode. If I go ahead and plug in a USB-C cable down here, you can see a light on the front here lights up. The devices also light up, and here you can see really the only clear difference from this perspective between the transmitters and the receiver. The charging display on the transmitters is on the right, on the receivers in the middle. And you can see after a second or two they will fade into a more power-saving mode. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at the different devices. Let's start with the receiver. Looking on the top, you can see we have the input for connecting to the camera, and also we have an output here for connecting up a pair of headphones for monitoring your audio. That's a nice touch. On this side we have a power button, and then we have plus minus for adjusting the gain of the input signal. And on the other side we have a pairing button, and then we have a USB-C connector which can be used also for charging the device outside of the case. Moving on to the transmitters, obviously both transmitters are identical. We have the built-in microphone here. We have a connection port here for connecting the lav mic. And on this side we have also a power button, and we also have a mute button. That's a nice touch. And on the other side we also have a pairing button and a USB-C input for charging the device outside of the case. So let's take a closer look at what's in the charging case. So we open it up. As I said, everything lights up, as you can see. Let's first of all take out our receiver. There's very little in the way of buttons on here because of course this is a touch screen for activating and using the device. You can see it's already picking up my signal through the microphones. We have a power button here and a USB-C charging cable so it can be charged separately outside of the case. And then on the other end we have the connection to your DSLR or camera, and then we have a separate headphone jack for monitoring your sound. On the back you can see we've got this connection port which will connect to the different Lightning or USB-C connectors for your smartphone, and you can see here also the charging input here which connects in the case down below. Pop that back in. Let's take a look at one of our microphones. So on the microphone we have of course the built-in microphone connection for a lav mic. Keep in mind there are no lav mics included with this kit. You have to buy those separately. We have a pairing button and a record button. So these microphones can actually record and store audio separately. They don't even need the receiver in order to do that. And then we have a power button and of course a USB-C charging cable. Again, it can be charged outside of the case. On the back we have this clip which also comes with a magnet which is pretty strong for connecting to clothing or similar. So let's do a size and weight comparison between the Godox and the DJI. Let's start with our receiver module. And I have, just in fairness, attached the connector here, the hot shoe, the cold shoe connector I should say, to the DJI to make it completely fair. As you can see, I would say they're pretty similar in size. The Godox has a bit of a flatter form factor, so it's longer and wider, but the DJI is a little bit thicker when you look at them from the profile. From a weight perspective, and again keep in mind this is the receiver, the Godox comes in at 28 grams and the DJI also comes in at 28 grams. So really not much to choose between the two from a size and weight perspective on the receiver. If we take a look at the transmitters, the microphones, you can see here there's quite a difference size-wise between the Godox and the DJI. The Godox is definitely longer and wider from this perspective, and when we turn them sideways you can see really not a lot of difference in terms of the overall thickness. From a weight perspective, Godox comes in at 27 grams, DJI 30 grams. So actually the DJI is a little bit heavier. You can feel it's definitely more compact, but there seems to be a lot of empty space inside the Godox case, so it's a little larger but a little bit lighter. And finally, let's do a quick comparison of the cases themselves. You can see from a size perspective they're probably similar in volume. The Godox has gone for a longer, wider, slimmer type approach, probably more pocket friendly. The DJI is definitely a bulkier, it's going to be harder to carry in a pocket. As I say, volume wise they're probably quite similar. Maybe the DJI is slightly larger. From a weight perspective you would expect there to be a difference because of course the DJI does have a battery built in. So our total carrying weight on the Godox comes in at 208 grams and the DJI comes in at 256 grams. So as expected it's quite a bit heavier. As I said, that's obviously because of the built-in battery that the DJI has here. Okay, let's have a look at the basic operation of the Godox MoveLink system. So if we take our devices out of the case and we're going to power them up with the power button on the side, we'll start with one of the transmitters here. You can see it powers up, it shows its status in terms of charge status. If I tap on it here, oh, nothing. So nothing's happening right now because it's not paired to the receiver, and you can see the red light here showing that. If I power up the receiver, you'll see that light now turns blue, so they are now paired. And if I tap on here, you can see on the display it shows it's getting the signal, and you can see the same thing on the receiver as well. Let's go ahead and power up the other receiver. And so now you can see both receivers are paired. It's a little annoying that the display dims so quickly. It's very hard to see anything on the display when it's dim like this. But nevertheless, let's take a look at the basic operation. So as far as the receivers themselves, really the only thing you can do on the receiver is hit the mute button. If I hit the mute button, a little line goes through the microphone indicating on the device itself that this transmitter is muted. It doesn't show anything on here other than, of course, the fact that now I'm not going to get any signal showing up in the signal display. So I will unmute that one, and now you can see it's receiving signal again. As far as the receiver is concerned, what we have here is the on-off button, which also doubles as a selection button for the receiver, the A transmitter and the B transmitter, and then you've got plus minus to adjust the gain. So in its default status, if I just go and hit the plus button, you can see it increases the gain of both the A and B signals. Or the minus button, I can decrease it. If I hit the power button once, it starts flashing on the A side, so I can adjust the gain specifically for the A transmitter. If I hit the power button again, the same applies for the B transmitter. So that's pretty much it as far as the user interface is concerned on the Godox. Another interesting thing I've noticed when using the Godox is the A and B selection for the transmitters is done based on which one powers up first. So right now you can see this one is the A transmitter, this one is the B transmitter. If I power off my transmitters, you can see the light goes red on the receiver because it's not getting any input. And now I'm going to power up what was the B transmitter. It pairs, and you can see now this is the A transmitter. So don't go putting any stickers on these to try to determine which one is A and which one is B. It really is determined by the order in which you power them up. So when we're done with our Godox MoveLink, obviously we power off our modules. And then we return them to the case. They'll snap in. There's actually a little magnet that you can see in the back here, which holds them nicely in place, pulls them down onto the charger. So when I plug in on my USB-C here, we ensure a good contact for charging. So let's take a look at the basic operation of the DJI mic system. As we already mentioned, the charging case for the DJI has a built-in battery, so as long as the transmitters and receiver are in the case, they are charging. Not only that, but also it's a smart case, so to speak. So when I open it up, it immediately powers up the devices. You can see the green light on each of the transmitters, and as long as the receiver is in the case like this, it shows the charge status of all three devices. As soon as I pull it out, it basically boots up and it shows me the status of the transmitters here. You can see the signal input. You can see it reading on this nice, very clear display, very bright. If I take out one of my transmitters and close up the case, you'll see the display now changes to show the status. So I've selected, you can see here, number 2. Unlike the Godox system, the DJI microphones are fixed, so this is number 2, so you could put a sticker on it to indicate this is number 2. And now I'm basically ready to go. So simply open up the case, pull out the 1 microphone or 2 microphones in the transmitter, and you're ready to start working. So as far as operating the DJI mic system is concerned, most operations are done directly from the receiver. But there are a couple of things that you can do on the transmitters. So obviously we have a power button, but as you've seen already, when you open up the case, it powers up. So you don't really need this if you want to power off while you're waiting for something to happen, possibly. You've got your USB for connection. We'll talk about that more in a second. We have a pairing button, and we also have a record button. So this is a really nice feature that these devices also have a built-in memory and allow you to record directly to the transmitter, and then they use the USB-C to connect it as a drive in order to transfer your recordings. So you don't even need to be paired to the receiver in order for this function to work. Also, the power button also doubles as a mute button. If you double press it, it will mute the microphone. That's about it as far as the transmitter operation is concerned. Everything else, as I said, is done from the receiver. You can see it has this really nice display which shows me the status of number 1 and number 2 here, and I can see the signal input also. Accessing the functionality, we just swipe down from the top and swipe left and right to get various functions. So you can see here is the master setting as far as mono stereo is concerned. So we have mono We have mono with a safety channel, which records an additional channel in the second channel, with a lower gain. So in case anything blows out, you can recover it. Or you can choose stereo, and in this case, the default is transmitter 1 is the left of the stereo channel, and transmitter 2 is the right, but we can reverse those if we want to. Swiping back up takes us back to the previous menu. We can adjust the overall receiver gain. Swipe back up to go back. We can adjust the volume output for headphones. And then there are a series of additional settings under this menu. If I go all the way to the left, you can see there's a low cut. I'm not going to get into that. You can adjust the vibration notifications for powering on and off the transmitters or starting and stopping recording. There's a link device setting, so if for any reason you need to repair a transmitter or you get a replacement transmitter and you need to pair it, you can do that here. You can adjust the transmitter gains individually here. So you've got transmitter 1 on the left, transmitter 2 on the right here, which you can then adjust similarly here. And again, I'll just go back. Brightness of the display, language, date and time. This is a really nice feature because, as I said, you can record directly to here and they will be time and date stamped, so it'll be very easy to find your recordings later on. Factory reset, right, version information, and compliance information are the other things in the menu here. Going all the way back to our main display, you can also access the functionality of each of the transmitters by swiping up from the bottom. Now, if you do that from the left-hand side, you do it for transmitter 1. You can see I can mute it, unmute it. I can check the amount of recording time available, format it if I need to here, which we will not do right now. And I can actually even start recording on the transmitter 1 by activating it here as well. So now I go back, and of course if I swipe on the right hand side up, the same exact functionality is available for transmitter number 2. So having compared and contrasted the operation user interface of each, let's get an idea of the sound quality. So I'm actually using the Godox MoveLink now for this segment. You can see it also, I have it magnetically attached on my shirt here. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. Pretty compact size, maybe a little bit obtrusive. Also just worth noting, we talked about these when we unpacked them, these wind protectors. They snap on really well, so they're pretty solid. Once you snap them in place, they certainly are not going to come off. But talking of obtrusive, you can see here exactly how big this thing is with the wind protector in place. Certainly not discreet by any means. Also, this wind protector, as I mentioned, it snaps on very well to the point where it's actually very difficult to actually get back off again. But there you go, that's the Godox MoveLink system. And now let's take a look at the DJI and take a listen to the DJI. So this segment is being recorded using the DJI microphone. As you can probably tell already, it's a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact than the Godox. If I place the Godox next to it, you can get an idea. So it is a little bit more discreet. Talking of discreet, also if I look at the wind protector here, it is a little bit more difficult to get on. You've got to get it lined up with the microphone, which takes a little bit of skill. There you go. Once it's in place, it's pretty secure, and just a half turn takes it back off again. Another thing I just wanted to mention was the way that these different microphones attach. So both of them have these clips, of course, on the back of them, which you can attach to an article of clothing. And of course, if the article of clothing works, then that's a good way to attach them. But they also use these magnetic approach. Now, the Godox approach is that this part, the actual clip itself, is magnetic. And it comes with these little tiny metal discs that attach here. This seems to be a little bit of an afterthought because these things are just so weak. It will just about stay there, but the slightest movement and it starts moving and you quickly lose the disc. So forget these, throw them away, they're completely useless. The DJI has a different approach. It comes with a little magnet that you can see on here, and this thing is really strong. The plate on the back here is actually just a metal plate, it's not magnetic. And you can see the magnet really sticks on pretty strongly. And I can attach this with no problem, but all of these things have one problem, is that they tend to pull down on whatever clothing you're wearing. So there is a good solution that I'm actually using right now. So the microphone I'm actually using, I grabbed one of these. This is actually for the Insta360 Go and Go 2 cameras. And this is an extremely strong magnet that you can put inside pretty much anything, even a pretty thick sweatshirt, and it will hold on to both the DJI microphone and the Godox microphone even pretty securely. So let's test the range of the Godox MoveLink system. According to the specifications, it's rated to provide high quality audio at a range of up to 50 meters. And that's with line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver. So what I've done is I've placed the transmitter on my back, so I can walk away maintaining line of sight between the transmitter and receiver. And what I'm going to do is walk up the hill. You can see the shed in the distance, that's about 66, 67 meters away. And I'm going to pause along the way and turn around to lose line of sight to the receiver so you can see what the audio quality sounds like at these different ranges. All right, so let's head on up the hill. Let's take our doggy with us. And we'll start at the 10-meter line. And at 10 meters, I'm going to turn around. So now I've lost the line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver, so you can see what the audio quality sounds like. And then we will continue on up the hill. Now we have to be careful that we don't step in anything that the dog may have left for us. And we get to the 20-meter line. And again, I'm going to turn around to lose line of sight between the receiver and transmitter, so you can see, or hear should I say, what the audio quality is like. Let's avoid the little landmine there and continue on up the hill to the 30-meter mark. So now we're at 30 meters, and again I'm going to turn my back so there's no line of sight and you can judge what the audio quality is like at 30 meters. Moving on up the hill further, we come to the 40-meter mark. So now we're 40 meters away. Again, I'm going to turn my back so there's no line of sight between the transmitter and receiver, so you can judge the audio quality at 40 meters. Continuing on. Now we are at the specified range of the Godox MoveLink, 50 meters. 50 meters now without line of sight. Again, hopefully you can still hear me. And judging the audio quality at 50 meters without line of sight. And now with line of sight as I turn my back and head on up the hill. We're going to continue on past 60 meters and all the way to the shed. Hopefully you can see me here. I'm now about 66, 67 meters away from the transmitter, from the receiver, without line of sight. And if I just turn around and face away from you. Now it's with line of sight at 66, 67 meters. So let's take up. Come on, boy. And we're going to head back, and now without line of sight all the way back, 50 meters at this point. Hopefully sound quality should be reasonable, although we do not have line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver as we pass through the 40-meter mark. And we continue down the hill to the 30-meter mark. And now we enter the landmine field here. Got to watch out as we get to 20 meters. And we continue on down to the 10-meter line. My dog is watching me and wondering why I'm talking to myself. And now we are all the way back. So how was the sound quality? That was the Godox MoveLink 2 range tests. So let's do a range test on the DJI mic. Now this thing is rated for up to 250 meters. So what I've set up here is a course that goes less than 70 meters. The shed at the top of the hill is about 66, 67 meters away. And what I'm going to do is head on up the hill. I'm going to pause along the way and do a line of sight test. The microphone is on my back, so as long as I'm walking away from you, there will be line of sight between the transmitter and receiver. And at each point, I'm going to stop and turn around so you can see what the audio quality is like with and without line of sight. So let's head on up the hill. Let's go for a walk. And let's start out at the 10-meter mark. And at 10 meters, I'm going to stop, turn around. So now we no longer have line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver. So you can judge what the audio quality is like at that point. It should be no problem. And frankly, it should be no problem all the way up the hill. And now we get to 20 meters. And again, I'm going to pause here, turn around, lose line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver so you can see what the audio quality is like. Watching out for doggy landmines here as we head on up the hill. We get to the 30-meter line. And again, I'm going to stop, turn around, lose line of sight, and hopefully the audio quality is still okay at this point. And then we get to 40 meters. Now we are at the 40-meter line. Dog has found something interesting, and I'm going to turn around and again lose line of sight so you can hear the audio quality at 40 meters. Let's continue on. And the last stop along the way is going to be at the 50-meter mark. And again, I'm going to turn around and talk to you a little bit with the microphone at my back so there's no line of sight, and you can judge what the audio quality is like at 50 meters. And let's complete our journey up to the 60-meter line and all the way to the shed. I'm now 67 meters or so away from the receiver with my back turned, so there is line of sight. And if I turn my back to you or my front to you, there's now no longer line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver. So at this point, we're going to pause while I go find my dog. This is actually a pretty good test because I'm continuing on up the hill. Come on. About 80, 90 meters away from the receiver. So there's definitely no line of sight. This way. This way. This way. Hey. No. That's a good point. And we're back. Okay, now I'm going to proceed to walk back towards the camera, keeping my back turned so that there is no line of sight between the receiver and the transmitter, so you can determine the audio quality at this varying distance without line of sight the entire way. We went through 50 meters, now through 40 meters, and we continue on down the hill, and I'm going to continue to keep on talking while trying to avoid the doggy poop as we come down the hill. We're now at 20 meters, and we continue on down. I'll continue to keep on talking all the way through 10 meters, and now we are back. So that was the range test for the DJI microphone. So, to the conclusion. So our DJI system, as we've said, is more than twice the price of the Godox system. Now, if you're going to want to add lav mics to your DJI, then you're probably looking at about 3 times the cost. So at that price differential, you really would expect the DJI to outperform the Godox in pretty much every discipline, and that clearly wasn't the case. When it comes to the basics of why you buy a wireless mic system, what you're looking for is better quality audio than you get from your built-in microphones. You've got better flexibility of placement, of course, than by using a shotgun microphone. So for making things like this video, a wireless microphone system is an ideal solution. And when it comes to the basic performance of the audio, there's really nothing to tell between the two. So if you go back and you review those segments, and I've reviewed them several times, including the parts of the audio video that I didn't use, I really can't say there's any clear difference between the sound quality of the two microphones. The only place there was a difference, and that was in the range test, where actually the Godox system outperformed the DJI. So if you're looking for something that can provide a robust signal at an extended distance away from your receiver, maybe the Godox system might actually be the better solution. When it comes to the DJI, clearly it's a more sophisticated and elegant solution. You've got the charging case, which obviously allows you to just throw it into a backpack or a bag and don't have to worry about it for several days without having to recharge it. You've got the simple startup and shutdown of the system by just taking out what you need, and you're pretty much ready to go. You've got flexibility, so you've got the lightning adapter and the USB-C adapter to be able to plug directly into those kind of devices. You can of course use dongles with the Godox system or adapters. Godox also sells a lightning receiver and a USB-C receiver as part of their overall solution, but of course that's going to add to the expense, so bring it pretty much similar to the level of the DJI system. And then you've got the complication of having to pair your microphones with different receivers. I'm not sure how that would work. Another big advantage that the DJI has is the ability to record directly to the transmitter itself. So you just take it out, you don't even need the receiver. You can just take this out, record your audio, and add it in post. That's obviously a really valuable feature as well. The overall interface and operation is clearly a little bit more elegant. You have more control, more adjustability on the DJI system. And personally, I find that the DJI microphone is a little bit more discreet and easier to hide. So maybe you don't always need a lav mic with the DJI microphone. As far as the Godox is concerned, it also has its advantages. As we said, I think it provides a more robust signal at distance, despite the specifications would indicate otherwise. You do have the included lav mics. That's a really nice touch and something you're probably going to want to buy with any microphone, wireless microphone solution. And of course, not last but by no means least, is the price. So it's literally about a third of the cost of the DJI solution. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed the comparison review between the DJI and the Godox systems. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit that like button. Also consider subscribing. There's not much there right now, but I plan to add more videos like this in the future. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.